Precious, or Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire, to give it its full title. Has got BAFTA nods for Best Film, Best Director, Best Actress.
A nod is a nomination.
A nomination,
yes,
yeah,
okay.
as opposed to Talk, which is what comes before a nomination.
Talk leads to nods and nods,
yes,
and then
awards. Okay, so
yes.
a nod is a nomination, an award is an award. Talk or hype is the campaign for it.
A nod is a really stupid, an Oscar nod. What? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
No, it means the Oscars. I think it's a perfectly fine phrase.
It's a nomination. Well, why not say nomination?
Because nod's got one syllable and nomination's
call it
got
a
four.
nom then. An Oscar nom.
Okay, let's call it an aluminum siding, all right? And that'll make everything easier.
Dear.
Including Best Actress for Gabori Sidibe and Supporting Actress Monique. The director Lee Daniels was on the show last week, and it was actually very, very upbeat, considering how downbeat I think the film is. The story is that the central character is a poor black American teenager suffering from hideous domestic abuse. When we first meet her, she is pregnant, yet again, pregnant by her now absent father, living with an appallingly abusive mother. Nobody has any faith in her at all, other than a teacher who sees something in her and decides that actually beneath the sort of the really tough outer exterior, there is a vibrant intelligence which she starts to bring out of the central character, although the hardships do not get better, they simply increase. At certain points, the hardships become so hard that the film actually escapes, like its central character, into flights of fantasy, in which she imagines herself as a movie star attending red carpet premieres, because the life that she lives is so bleak, so grim, so nasty, that she escapes into these fantasies. And, as the director himself said, in the source novel, if he'd actually attempted to put on screen what was in the source novel, it would have been what in America they referred to as an X-rated film. So he kind of admitted that what he was doing was moving away from the source, because there was simply no way of portraying just how tough it is. Anyway, here's a clip.
There's always something wrong with these testers. These testers paint a picture of me with no brain. These testers paint a picture of me and my mother. My whole family is less than dumb. Just ugly black grease to be wiped away. Finding a job for. Sometimes I wish I was dead. I'd be okay, I guess. 'Cause I'm looking up. Looking up for a piano to fall. A desk, couch, TV, mama maybe. Always something in my way.
The novel came out in the mid-1990s, at which point there had already been sort of several other sort of quite high-profile stories about impoverished, downtrodden African-American life. And the film has drawn criticism from some quarters, saying that actually what it's doing is, firstly, that it's retrograde, it's drawing attention to stories which were old hat even when the novel came out, and secondly, saying that it's a portrayal of those central characters which is somehow racist. You quoted last week a review, which I've subsequently looked up, by Armand White, who had said, "Not since The Birth of a Nation has a mainstream movie demeaned the idea of black American life as much as Precious." I have to say, the review then goes on, and I'm reading this verbatim. "The hype for Precious indicates a culture-wide willingness to accept particular ethnic stereotypes as a way of mainlining status quo films. Excellent recent films with black themes, Meet Dave, Norbit, Little Man." Let me just read that to you again. Excellent recent films with black themes, Meet Dave, Norbit, Little Man. At which point you think, okay, you're kind of on a hiding to nothing with this argument, aren't you? So we did talk about this with Lee Daniels, and I think that what he said was that the particular critic in question there wasn't somebody who was necessary to be taken seriously. Having read that second paragraph,
yes.
I agree with that. Also, I have to say, from the film's point of view, I didn't think that the film was guilty of doing the thing that it's accused of doing. I mean, somebody used the phrase poverty porn. I don't think it's guilty of that either. In fact, as you heard from that clip, the central character actually quite explicitly says, the problem is people look at me and my family and just see us as a problem. They don't see anything beyond that. So I think the film is very aware of those possibilities.
And you really think anyone goes to see the film and doesn't think that kind of situation doesn't arise in Asian families or Anglo families wherever it happens? It's just an underclass film, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is simply not true. I think that what the film is about is it is about, at its purest, it is about a spirit attempting to triumph over completely appalling physical circumstances. Now, on the one hand, I think there are things in it that do to them. It's funny because the director was talking about how what he saw it as was uplifting. He saw it as a sort of triumph of the spirit film, and he also said that you should feel perfectly enabled to laugh. Although I have to say, I didn't find many moments in which I saw much opportunity for laughter. I mean, that may just be me, but he was saying, you should feel it's okay. There are things in it that are comic, and I didn't see many of them. What I found was this. I think the performances are really great. I mean, I believed all the performances completely, even when the performances are things like Mariah Carey being the social worker, who I genuinely didn't recognise.
Yeah,
There were 5 minutes in the scene. It's everyone's saying, well, doesn't it stick out like a sore thumb that it's Mariah Carey? I mean, I wasn't making it up. I genuinely didn't recognise that it was her.
And Nurse Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah, exactly. Nurse Lenny, who turns up...
She's not dressed as a woman. Clearly, it's a male nurse, which is what they're talking about in the film. But you don't think,
it didn't just feel like celebrity casting, in that it didn't break the flow of the film for me. Sometimes celebrity casting does do that, but that didn't happen. The real standout performance for me in this is Monique, who plays the mother, who is just terrifying. There is a scene later on in the film in which there is an attempt to suggest, I mean, obviously the mother herself has suffered a degree of abuse that has created the abusive person that she is. I still think that it's stretching a point to say that what happens is that we become sympathetic towards it. It's just that what we see is that behind all the horror and all the rage and all the nastiness, there is something causal. There is something where she hasn't just arrived ex nihilo as this monstrous character, because there are moments in it in which she's kind of the Norman Bates character. She is a really terrifying screen presence. And actually the most disturbing scene for me, and I mean you'll remember this because you've seen the film, is there a scene when they're sitting together in this living room and Precious makes some food, and the mother says, "No, it's not hot. You eat it." And she gets to the set and she forces her to eat this food. And there's no real violence in the scene, but psychologically, it's just horrible. And things happen outside of that which are more physically violent. But that scene is really, really claustrophobic, and you don't get that kind of claustrophobia by accident. So, from a directing point of view and from a performance point of view, that sort of material is executed very well, and it's very important to understand that that's designed to do that, and it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. My question would be this. I saw the film and I found it hard to watch because at every given moment, when things look like there is a glimmer of light, the kind of the encompassing horror of all the bad things that are happening to the central character just keep coming back. And in fact, there is a moment sort of 2/3 of the way through in which you think what's going to happen is that the film is going to obey that movie cliche of somebody managing to drag themselves out of a bad situation and turn everything to their own ends and it's all going to be fine. But that's not how it plays out. And on the one hand, you say, well, actually, you could say there's an element of social realism, although actually it's not a social realist film. It's something different to that. But then something else happens that seems once again to drag the central character back down. So I do have to ask, I'm not entirely sure under what recommendation you'd say go and see Precious, because it is tough. I mean, you've seen it, right? Mm-hmm. It is a tough watch, isn't it?
Yes, pretty much all the way through.
And there's a lot of Shawshank and not that much before you get to the redemption. And even when you get to the redemption, there's still a whole load of Shawshank with it.
Are you suggesting that the redemption is shanked?
What I'm suggesting
as you get the redemption.
What I'm saying is I came out of it feeling really tired. I mean, I don't mean that necessarily as a criticism, but I thought it was a convincingly grim portrayal of a horrendous situation that was played, very genuinely by the performers, that was directed, rather well. Personally, the fantasy sequences for me are kind of emblematic of what's right and wrong with the film. In a way, they're a cop-out. They clearly are a cop-out. They're the film doing exactly what the central character is doing, which is escaping from that area. You sort of felt like, well, that's not a particularly satisfying solution to those problems. On the other hand, every time the fantasy sequences happened, I was really pleased because I felt that I needed to escape from the film in the same way as the film needed to escape from itself. So I don't think it's a bunch of laughs, but it's not intended to be. I'm not sure that it's the uplifting gem that perhaps it has been described as. I think that the predominant thing that I took away from it was a sense of profound sadness and, kind of exhaustion at the litany of terrible things that happen to the central character. Yes, you definitely get a sense of her indomitable spirit, but it is a tough watch that in the end I admired rather than, certainly didn't enjoy, but I admired the film, but it reminded me of the discussion we were having before about can a film be depressing if it is good? Because I think Precious is very well made and very admirable, but I did find it depressing.